Anyhow.
I think we're filming.
Yeah, most of
Ready?
it's pretty self-explanatory. That's why I kind of wrote it out for a meeting. Yeah, okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Aurora City Council's Committee of the Whole meeting. It is Monday, August 24th, 2015. Ms. Schweikhofer, please call the roll.
Ms. Barner? Ms. Grandillo?
Here.
Mr. Hatridge?
Here.
Mr. Horvath?
Here.
Mr. Kovach? Mr. Cudley?
Here.
Ms. McDougal? Present. Mr. Vaca? Mr. Wolf?
Here.
Thank you. First item on our agenda is the approval of minutes for the August 10th, 2015 meeting. I'll entertain a motion for adoption.
Second.
It's been moved and second to adopt. Any additions, comments, or corrections? Hearing none, all in favor of approving those minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, those minutes are adopted. Next on the agenda is the Finance Director's report. Mr. Paul? this
Yes,
is
you
what-
have my memo there, and basically it's exactly the same. The summertime doldrums have set in, but our revenues have increased and our expenses are below budget. So looking at the general fund itself, you can have confidence that I have that we'll finish the year in a very good stead again this year. The only other thing I want to comment on is the stormwater infrastructure program that we had. We are making a little progress with that, and although it hasn't been bid yet, hopefully we'll get some estimates within the next month and maybe water line, infrastructures, water lines. And hopefully we'll have something for Kyle in the next meeting or two.
Any comments or questions for Mr. Paul? Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept this?
So moved.
We have a motion to approve his Finance Committee report. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. Under new business, our first item is item A, employees generally of part-time sports monitors. Mr. Kraus?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are looking to hire 4 part-time staff to fill the sports monitors position. It's another one of those group positions where we have a pool of employees that we can use to then cover the various activities that we have. It used to be called sports supervisor, for those who may remember. We've changed the name, and working with Karen, we changed the name to sports monitor. So we're looking to hire these 4. It's not a budget increase at all. It's just simply a pool of applicants. We had our group that we had some either went back to college or got full-time jobs or something to that effect. So we're looking to replace them.
Okay, and the administration is asking that this go on the council's agenda for action this evening.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve the part-time sports monitors. Hearing no further comments, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item B is the purchase of a replacement computer network switches. Mr. Kraus?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Earlier this year, we had purchased 2 network switches. The initial plan was we would do this over a couple of years. Once we purchased those 2 and during the installation of that and working with Frank from Mirifex, he felt it would be more efficient and better for us to actually just replace all at this time. And instead of doing the fiber line replacement, which we were going to do this year, and a server replacement we were going to do, we would do this in exchange of that. So we are asking for the approval to purchase the remaining 4 network switches, which would give us 6 total, which is the 6 that we have, to be able to replace those, and then those other projects would be moved to next year.
Okay. And this is in the budget?
We had about $30,000 or so total initially for the 2, for all of this work, but then we've used it for other various emergency needs, obviously the network switches and things. So we have $20,000 left over in the computer line, and we have $11,075.10 that's budgeted in contingencies. So between those 2 lines, we would be able to cover these 4 switches.
Right. Okay, thank you. Mr. Hatridge?
Thank you. Mr. Kraus, how much is it going to cost to replace did you say the fiber line?
Mr. Kraus?
Yes, the chairman to the councilman. We hadn't priced that project yet. We had put $20,000 in the computer budget the large group, we had estimated that it would be around $20,000 for that.
How old is the line that's in there now?
The fiber line was actually going to be a new connection from the fire station to City Hall, which there is not an existing one. We have a fiber loop that runs from City Hall to police to service to the Walker Building to fire. It's not a closed loop. The intent would be to close the loop. These switches would then allow multi-directional communication so that if one stretch went down, it could go the other way, but you can't do that without a loop.
Okay, thank you.
And the administration is asking this to go on the council's agenda for a first reading this evening. It's been moved and seconded to forward this to council for its first reading tonight. Seeing no further comments or questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. Item C under new business is the change orders for Sunny Lake Park Improvement Project. Mr. Kraus?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. These are a compilation of the various change orders that had come in throughout the construction project. Most of them are small individually and then as a group, and you can see we also had a credit. I was holding off at one point to bring them all to appropriate the money. We did have approval from the mayor to go ahead with the change orders. Now we're just looking for the money. You can see with the memo and the explanation of what the changes were. We're looking for $7,831.88 to be appropriated from the general fund to cover this work that was completed through the process of the project.
Okay. Mr. Vaca?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To Mr. Kraus or whoever, wasn't this engineered? Why is there such a disparity in this?
Mr. Kraus?
You know, various construction projects, they come up with some unforeseen circumstances or things that they couldn't fully expect through the design process. You know, for example, one of them was just a change in the design. The credit for the gas line was a change in the design where we determined we didn't need a gas line. If we were going to heat the building, we'd use electric, which was already there, so that saved money. Some of the other ones were just, you know, kind of discovered throughout the process, if that makes sense.
Mr. Vaca?
Well, speaking of that one in particular, would it not be cost effective through the years to have a gas water heater over an electric one? Electric ones are very expensive to operate. Probably the initial gas line would have been a cost, but at the total output, running a gas hot water tank is a lot cheaper, the way I see it.
Mr. Kraus?
The gas line that was removed was to the concession stand where we aren't heating the water. So
Okay.
that's why we didn't need the gas line. There is a gas water heater at the boathouse, which already had existing gas service.
Okay. And this number 6 prep sink concession stand, Portage County Health has asked for a second one. Did the engineer, whoever designed this, know you needed 2 of them?
Mr. Kraus?
Apparently that it was in their initial conversation with the health department, they thought that they had it correct, and then in further discussions, determining what the contractor was actually going to be doing and what kind of food they were actually going to service, that then kind of changed the initial, from what the initial design was going to be.
Okay, well, what I'm trying to drive at is change orders kill a project real quick. I know a former councilman that was very upset when we had all these change orders coming in. And you would think whoever designs these things, puts them together, wouldn't have that many change orders. I guess we gotta go with it, but I'm just not too thrilled about it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's my understanding also that this work's already been completed.
What's?
This work has already been completed, so it's not that we go back and change. Okay. Mayor?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I didn't like the change orders either. I was not happy, particularly at some of the engineering issues. However, there is a process for, in our ordinances for allowing change orders, and we followed that process, and I thought that we were I mean, I think there's a limit also, and we were within the appropriate limitations, and I made the determination that it was important to get this work done while the contractor was on site. And obviously, we had some time issues that we were trying to get things done for the season and did the best that we could under the circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Horvat,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a question for the Parks and Rec Director.
go ahead.
Mr. Kraus, I guess I need to go back. What was the total cost of this whole project, though? Just shy of,
Chairman, it was, I think, and I'm going off rough memory, I think it was $398,000 total for the construction part. So when you look on a percentage basis, this is really small.
That's where I was going. Thanks.
All right, thank you. The administration's asking that this go on council's agenda for action this evening.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to forward to council for action this evening. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. Our last new business item is item D. It's a real estate tax rates for 2016. Mr. Paul.
Yes, this is a result of our tax budget that was filed in July. And again, the Portage County holds a budget hearing, and they utilize these figures. And this is the city's portion of the real estate tax. And this is the rates that they have determined and the dollar amounts that we will collect from each of the levies, et cetera, that, as well as the city's real estate tax share, which is 2.4%.
Comments or questions? The administration's asking that this go on to council's agenda this evening for its first reading.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded to forward to council for a first reading. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that motion passes. That brings us to the end of our agenda. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned.